When you're designing something, how do you make sure it's not just cool, but actually reliable? That it's not just clever, but that people can truly trust it? Well, that's the fundamental challenge right at the heart of product design, and today we are going to unpack it. So let's just dive right in with the big question. How do you build something that is simple, fair, and trusted? To get to the bottom of that, we're going to take a little trip to the allegorical kingdom of Aurelia. Trust me, a wise queen, a guild of designers, and, yeah, a pretty fiery dragon have a whole lot to teach us.
So our story kicks off one morning when the Guild of Designers gets summoned by the Queen of Aurelia. She's got a challenge for them, a really important problem that her people needed a brilliant solution for.
Now listen closely to the words she uses here. She didn't ask for something flashy or fancy or complicated. Nope, she demanded three core things: simple, fair, and trusted. These three words, they're the absolute bedrock of everything we're talking about today.
All right, so the guild gets right to work, but not everyone's on the same page. We've got our main players here, the planner, who is all about practicality, the risk taker, who loves a bit of flair, and the trickster who, well, let's just say has a very different idea of what value means. They each started designing a shield to meet the queen's challenge. And right away, you can see these different philosophies clashing. On one hand, the planner offers up this sturdy, plain shield. It's cheap, it's reliable, pure utility. But on the other extreme, you've got the trickster's design, which was just full of hidden catches and all these confusing extra charges. These two really represent that core tension, right? Simple reliability versus deceptive complexity. And then you have the risk taker trying to find some middle ground with shiny, customizable features. Of course, a design on paper is one thing. The real test? It's how it actually holds up in the real world. So the shields were brought to the villagers for feedback, and then, for the ultimate reality check, a little trial by Dragonfire. And wow, the feedback came in fast. The villagers, they liked the plain shield's price tag for sure, though some wished it had more options. But they absolutely hated the trickster shield. And why? They all said it's too complicated. They had no idea what they were paying for. It's a perfect example of a crucial lesson. If your customer doesn't understand your product, they will never, ever trust it.
And then came the big twist. During the flame test, the most attractive shield, the gilded one with all the fancy gems, it completely failed. It cracked right under the dragon's fire. The very features that made it look so special, the gems, had actually weakened its core structure.
The lesson here was harsh, but it was crystal clear. It was a pretty humbling moment for the risk taker. Shiny add-ons are great, they look attractive, but they cannot come at the expense of the product's real purpose. That core strength, that integrity, it has to come first, period.
So this all leads to the final word from the Watcher, kind of the wise old soul of the guild. He boils it all down and realizes a successful product has to balance three key things. First, affordability. If it's too plain, people won't buy it. Second, suitability. If it's too complex, they won't trust it. And third, sustainability. If it's too fragile, it's going to fail when it matters most.
Okay, that was a great story, right? But what does a fairy tale about shields and dragons have to do with actuarial science and insurance? Well, as it turns out, everything. Let's start connecting the dots from this parable to actual practice.
See, in the actuarial world, product design is exactly this balancing act. It's all about taking customer needs, company goals, all the regulations, and long-term financial health, and somehow weaving them all together into a product that is clear, fair, and sustainable, just like the Queen wanted from the very beginning.
The parallels here are so direct, it's kind of brilliant. The shield they're all designing, that's the insurance product. The planner's simple, sturdy shield, that's your basic, affordable policy. The risk-taker's gilded shield represents those overcomplicated, maybe even risky features. The trickster's hidden catches, yep, that's unfair charging structures. And that cracking shield, it's the perfect metaphor for how attractive add-ons can actually wreck a product's long-term sustainability.
And this whole process, it isn't just a random story. It's actually guided by a professional framework called the actuarial control cycle. You can see how perfectly our story fits. Specifying the problem, that was the Queen's decree. Developing the solution, that was the guild's competing designs. And monitoring the experience, that was the crucial feedback from the villagers in that dragon test, which led them right back to designing a better solution. It all lines up.
So let's bring this all home. Why is getting this stuff so absolutely critical for anyone in this field? Because good product design isn't just some abstract idea. It's about building trust, and that has very, very real-world consequences.
When actuaries are designing a contract, they are literally juggling all of these factors at once. You have to ask, is this thing marketable? Is it efficient with our capital? How does it stack up against what competitors are offering? Does it meet every single regulation? Are the features attractive but also sustainable? And maybe most importantly, is it simple enough to actually administer? It's a really complex puzzle to solve.
And hey, for those of you studying for exams, this is exactly what they're testing you on. Can you take all these competing forces, what the policyholder needs, what the insurer wants, the risks, the need for clarity, and can you design a solution that actually works for everyone? That's the real skill. It's not just about running the numbers, it's about the judgment behind them. Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We live in a world that just loves complexity, right? More features, more options, more everything. But as the story of Aurelia shows us, sometimes the most valuable thing you can offer isn't the most complex thing at all. So the question is, in a world that's always getting more complicated, is the simplest promise actually the strongest?